You're listening to episode 172, Rylee's Story, a child life specialist with Tetralogy of Fallot. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Child Life on Call. This podcast is a safe place for parents to share their stories about what it's like to have a child that has a medical experience, diagnosis, disease, and or everything in between. We know there's power in sharing stories, and that power multiplies when you can listen to other parents who have walked a similar path to yours. Giving and getting advice is great, but hearing how another parent navigates the complexities and nuances of healthcare is even better. As a child life specialist, my role is to support, validate, and provide emotionally safe spaces for kids and their families, and I am so honored to be on this journey with you. In addition to parent stories, we sprinkle in some expert episodes every now and again that have content for both parents and professionals in the field of healthcare, all with the mission to empower parents to be confident advocates and partners with the care team during healthcare experiences. We're so glad you're here. Hello, my friends. I am so happy that you're here with me today, and I get to share the mic with another child life specialist, which is always a really fun opportunity. We're going to be sprinkling a bit more of these into our interviews in the coming months, so I hope you enjoy this one. This one is especially impactful for me because it's really fun to watch child life specialists come into the profession with not only this incredible academic experience that I missed out on, honestly, but they just come so well prepared. And then you get to meet somebody like Rylee, who comes with her own perspective, her own healthcare journey, and the way that she is able to cope with her own experiences, separate and beautifully blend them into what she does for her own patients in the hospital is really something special and inspiring for me to see. So Rylee, I've loved getting to know you. A special shout out to Duke Children's Hospital where you're working. And I just really want to thank you for being so open, so vulnerable, and sharing with parents what it was like for you as a cardiac kid with Tetralogy of Fallot. All right, we'll get started. Before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you guys know that if you are a parent, a child life specialist, or professional working with children, you're going to want the hospital or physician's office or urgent care that you take your kids to have the Child Life On Call app. It is an evidence-based tool designed to empower children and families during medical experiences. And 100% of the child life specialists who have used this app believe that it can help with expanding child life's reach beyond the bedside. And 100% of child life specialists believe it helps parents feel more empowered in their child's care. Learn how to get the Child Life On Call app for your facility or doctor's office by going to childlifeoncall.com/partners.
My name is Rylee, and I am currently a child life specialist at Duke Children's Hospital. This is a very recent update, but I'm currently working on the pediatric cardiac step-down unit and pediatric cardiac ICU, which has been my dream to be full circle. Yeah. But I was born with Tetralogy of Fallot and have had my own journey regarding that. And at the age of 14, I went in for a valve replacement and was lucky enough to meet a child life specialist during my time in the hospital. And ever since that interaction, I was like, I want to do that. So here we are. What was it? 9 years ago now? 9 years later, certified child life specialist working on a cardiac unit, which is really exciting.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations for, kind of achieving your dream goal at such a young age. That's really, really cool. So I'm so interested kind of in your perspective and working with families now, but can you take us back to maybe one of your earliest memories and finding out that you had Tetralogy of Fallot, what that meant, and what are some of your earliest memories there?
Yeah. So I think from a young age, I knew that I had something different just because of my physical appearance. When it came to that, I have my open heart scar and I have a few other scars that came along with that. So I knew from a young age that there was something about me that was different than other people, but it wasn't until I say my earliest memory would probably be my very early teen years when I finally started to, start understanding why we were going to the doctor every year and understanding why I was getting an echo and an EKG. Um, but I think the time in which I really fully processed that I have tetralogy of flow and this is what my life is going to look like was when I went in for my annual appointment when I was 13 and I had to get an MRI and they said it's time for surgery number 2. And that's when things really hit me like a brick wall.
Yeah.
That's when I really realized, oh, okay, this is me.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's what that kind of looked like.
Yeah. I'm so curious, you know, tell us a little bit about that understanding that something was different and that you required kind of this extra medical care. Were you someone who was like really hungry for information? Were you kind of like going off what mom and dad told you? Are you somebody who is like, I just wanted to show up and get it done and over with? How did you cope with that, I guess, at that age, 13, 14, when you were going through kind of that recognition of what was going on?
Yeah, so I think me personally, I really was avoidant to it all. I hated going to doctor's appointments. I hated being touched. I hated seeing the cardiac diagrams on the walls in the doctor's offices. Um, I hated the sound that the echo would make of the blood swooshing. Um, I would say I was entirely avoidant. And I was forced to face that when I literally had to sign off for my procedure that I got when I was 14. And I personally had to read over what was going to happen to me step by step. Um, and that was definitely a lot to process, especially for someone that is very avoidant with my personal medical care.
Hmm. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah. So you obviously signed the consent forms. You knew
Mm-hmm.
what was going to happen. In your mind, was what you read on the consent form and what happened during your surgery and your recovery very similar, or was it a different experience than, I don't know if you know what to expect, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
becoming a parent. Like you've heard about it, you've read about it, but like you
Yeah.
don't know till you go through it. What was that like for you?
So this is the time in which I had I wish I had a pre-op child life specialist that kind of called me and would have given me a heads up before it actually happened. When I read the consent, it was definitely not child friendly. It was
Mhm.
mumbo jumbo, and they either told me you sign it because it wasn't fully approved yet, so I had to sign off of it, on it regardless of my age, or I was going to have to do open heart. So I signed it regardless, but I didn't understand really what this was going to entail for me. I remember waking up from surgery. Well, to even go back, honestly, I remember the morning of surgery. It was 5 in the morning, and everyone in the car was so quiet driving to the hospital.
Yeah.
And we get there and we're in pre op. And to add to this, I have a huge needle phobia.
Mm.
So getting the IV was traumatizing. And I remember seeing my mom and dad crying as they walked me back to the OR doors. And I remember waking up and there being another IV in my hand. And I just remember feeling super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I just honestly wish I had more education about what was going to be next, thinking back on it now.
Yeah.
No one really talked to me about what post op would look like or about any of the sensations I would be feeling or about the items that would be in the room that I was seeing or having to have nurses assist me with everything. Um, that was definitely something that I almost felt blindsided with.
Mm. Yeah, that's a big word. Like
Mm-hmm.
to be blindsided after you've signed a consent form. I think a lot of parents and other teens who do that feel the same way too, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like what you and I know now, though, is there's so much that can be done ahead of
Mm-hmm.
time,
For sure.
and maybe the old way of thinking is like, no, it's too scary for kids to understand. But what's scary is being blindsided.
No, exactly. I couldn't agree more. I think it's so much more important to properly educate, your children or patients about what is to come rather than be avoidant with it and just kind of deal with it in the moment. Because then you almost ruin a bridge of trust that you could have had too
Yeah.
with that patient. I think it's almost crucial to make sure that, especially in the cardiac world, when you can wake up with so many things, to really inform them of like, this is what it's going to look like when you wake up, but this is how we're also going to support you when you wake up, so they don't feel as alone or isolated in the process.
Yeah. I'm so curious about your interaction with that child life specialist
Mm-hmm.
and what for you was like this aha moment of like, I think, going from being needle phobic,
Mm-hmm.
avoidant to being like, oh, I want to work in the cardiac ICU one day.
Yeah. um I have no problem seeing stuff when it's not
Yeah.
my own.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about it. But honestly enough, I don't remember much of my interaction with my child life specialist. I think I probably have mentally blocked out that
Yeah.
experience in my mind. What I do remember is that she brought me a butterfly miniature pillow pet, and
Mm.
to this day I have it in my bedroom.
Wow.
Um, and I just remember going home from surgery and I asked my mom, I was like, can you call my doctor and ask him who that lady was that came into my room and what her name, like what her title was, because I really liked her. And so my mom reached out to our doctor, who we had a really good relationship with, and he was able to say, oh, that was blah, blah, blah. She's a child life specialist. And from then I just did my own research on it. And I was like, I think I could do that because I think I could offer a really cool perspective.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of what that looked like. I wish I remembered more about the experience, but I think it's just mentally blocked out in my mind.
Yeah. Do you know who she is? Like, have you gotten to talk with her since and told her what you're doing?
I have not. I don't remember the name. I don't even
Yeah.
remember if we were really provided with a name just for
Yeah.
confidentiality reasons.
Right.
Um, I think about it all the time. I know
Yeah.
I don't work at the hospital and where I was treated at, and I
Yeah.
wonder if she still works there. Or I actually did my practicum at the hospital I was treated at.
Wow.
So the whole time I was there, I was like, I wonder if one of these
Was
specialists
it
was my
them?
child life specialist, but they obviously can't tell me if it was or not. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I haven't contacted her at all. But that would be so cool to be able to kind of say like, you inspired me, and here I am now.
Wow. Um, what was it like for you going through training? And, I think there's one thing to do the textbooks and the theories and learn in
Mm-hmm.
class. And then when you're thrust into your practicum or internship, it's a shift of like, oh my gosh, these are real people experiencing real things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that was both enlightening and invigorating and challenging for you in a number of ways. What was that experience like?
I would describe my child life clinical experience as one of the most exciting ones that I've partaken in. I know a lot of people have mixed reviews about the practicum and internship process just due to how rigorous it is to
Hmm.
obtain those. But every step of the way, it was just like such a huge accomplishment to me because it was more than just pursuing a job to me. It was like pursuing what filled my cup and what, gave me passion. So I really enjoyed my practicum and internship. I mean, I remember the first day of my internship, I left at like 4 o'clock and I was like, I want to go back. Like, can it be like 7:00 in the morning already? I want to go back to work.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really positive one, and it was really cool. I mean, I don't share my story just right off the bat to anyone that walks up to me, but it's cool to kind of watch like coworkers or maybe past preceptors just kind of see me interact with kids, and then they learn that, oh, like Rylee was a patient too, and Rylee had a child life specialist, just kind of seeing them form their own opinion of me before they know my history. I thought that was really cool too.
Wow. I just think about your parents. How do your parents feel about what you have accomplished? And I'm sure that they have I was just talking with, like I mentioned, before I interviewed you, I interviewed a psychologist who had a lot of medical experiences as a child. And she's like, I think they blocked a lot of it out too, just like she had.
Yeah. My parents, I would say, are my biggest supporters. I mean, I can't say that my dad never tried to talk me out of the profession because of the financial aspect of it.
And spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't know, we don't make any money.
Yeah. I know. When you don't make any money in high school and college, you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds great, because you're not making any at the time, but then you actually get into it and you're like, oh, okay. But no, they're so proud of me. When I tell them, bits and pieces about my days and things like that, they just are, I would say they're just like astonished. They're like, we never knew that you could be that nice to other people, because you're just such a stinker to us at home. Yeah. But no, my mom, we're not like a sappy kind of bunch, but they get really sappy when they hear what I do at work, and maybe some of the positive comments I get from staff and families. I think I know I use my heart defect, or at least I try to the best of my ability, use it as something positive and try not to think of the negatives that it can bring. And I think me pursuing this profession and using it in a positive way has also done so for them, and not letting it serve as such a negative and scary thing, but something that has allowed me to meet some really cool people and hopefully change, some people's perspectives or mindsets about their own diagnosis. So they love it. They tell me all the time, I wish that we had a child life specialist when you were born, because it would have done us wonders. So
wow. Oh my goodness. And I'm amazed by you. I think what you've done is so amazing, for so many reasons. So apart from being a child life specialist, we did a repost of an episode once from another podcast called Life on Pause. And the topic was adolescents who have had scars and what their scars mean to them. And that kind of ran the gamut of, some would be not talk about it and always cover it up, where the others would be like, I make up stories about why I got this one or that one, and just play it off. Where do you go in kind of that spectrum and being a young adult now?
I guess I'll just be real open and honest on here. So I have my open heart scar, which I'm honestly not that weird about. Like, I'll, wear swimsuits and not be bothered. I'm like, this is just me. But don't quote me, because I'm not a doctor. But when I was having my open heart surgery at 11 months old, during the procedure, my rib was nicked, and it kind of made one of my ribs go up a little bit and the other one kind of come back a little bit. So I have a bit of I call it my funky rib. I have a funky rib, and I have a scar that kind of goes around that funky rib where they tried to fix it.
Okay.
That is the scar in which I do try to cover. Just because I don't know. The funky rib is just something that I've never been able to really get over, because I see it all the time, and I've had in my schooling, I was required to do clinicals at preschools for my undergrad, and I've had children ask about my funky rib, and I know it's like they don't know any different, but I mean, if I am to be honest, it did knock me back a few pegs. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, like
Yeah.
that means other people are noticing it.
See it.
So
Yeah.
that is something that I am a bit insecure about, and I'll make sure my hair isn't cut too short so it kind of covers it, or I'll make sure I don't bend over in a certain way so no one can really see it. But in regards to my open heart scar, I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. Like you can see it all you want, in an appropriate way, but I'll
Yeah.
talk about that one all day. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how parts of our body can not bother us and others can. Like as a female woman
Oh
who's
yeah.
had children, like I can think there's so many parts that I just want to cover up, and others I'm
Mhm.
like, it's fine. So it really is interesting. Oh, I was going to tell you I think it was my first year, I was a fellow,
Mhm.
and I was like 24, like as far as being 24 and like in good shape
Mhm.
goes, and I had this patient hug me, and she's like, "You're squishy, not like my mom." And I was like, "Oh my
Oh.
gosh." It was one of those
Yeah.
things where it's just like, you're so right. Like kids, they say what they feel for
Mhm.
good and for bad, and it is the truth. And so it does stick with you for sure.
Yeah, they're brutally honest and I love it, but sometimes it can be a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll tell you how it is. But I'm so sorry that that little child said that to
Oh,
you.
no, she is the most adorable thing. I still think about her all these years later,
Yeah.
and just like that was her, and like that was her spirit. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if you had a bad like manicure, she'd tell you, it's
Okay.
so funny. So
I can
funny.
picture the type of kid now. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So working alongside um your child life coworkers, your coworkers on the cardiac unit, what are some of your the best parts of your job and some of the most challenging parts?
I think the best parts of my job is when I get to tell someone, um, "Oh, yeah, I have tetralogy too," or, "Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I have an open heart scar too," and the look on their faces is just like, "What?" Like, the
Yeah.
parents just look so, like, they're in shock, but they're happy in shock because they're like, "You're a whole adult person, and I've never met anyone that has this or that also has had open heart, and you're standing in front of me, and that just shows me that we can get there too."
Yeah.
But when the kids hear it or see it, I love when they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's cool, me too," and they show me their scar, or if it's like an older friend, I can just kind of see like a look of confidence, or maybe just like the little smile on their face shows me that maybe they don't feel as isolated as they
Mhm.
did before. Um, I think that is definitely the best part of the job. I think the not worst part of the job, but something that I have found that is challenging would be trying to separate work from my personal life, and that being me seeing some of these kids that aren't doing so well and seeing, some pretty intense things go down in the unit, and then possibly thinking, man, like I'm due for a valve replacement in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's kind of scary to think about, that my procedure might not go well, or I may wake up
Mhm.
with some things that I don't want to see or feel. And
Yeah.
that has been challenging in the aspect of just not letting like worst case scenarios that I'm sadly having to see in the unit creep into my personal thoughts.
Mm. Yeah, you probably have to get, and that doesn't happen overnight, I'm sure, but just really have a really good process
Mhm.
for feeling those things and making it all real. I don't have a similar experience as far as cardiac goes, but like when I was a child life specialist in the ICU and a 4-year-old drowning came in, and I was with my 4-year-old,
Mhm.
that weekend also at a pool,
Yeah.
and it's really similar. And I've noticed, like, for me, that's where a lot of my anxiety and depression has come from, is separating that and
Hmm.
not really understanding it. And so I know as I furthered in my career and became a supervisor, whenever that stuff would come up that was hard, just making sure that both myself and my team took time to like think about how hard our
Mm.
job is and
No,
how
for
much
sure.
we
Yeah.
see. And, being a nurse is so hard, being a doctor is so hard, and they each come with their own things. But I would say child life and social work and chaplains, our job is to check in on the emotions of the people in the room. And many of us are just naturally empathetic, and we do tend to feel things more. We don't have tasks to complete, like pull this drug, do this or that. We're assessing emotions.
Hmm.
And that comes with a big toll.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think and it's not only that we're doing that for just one patient, we're going
Mhm.
room to room, doing the same thing over and over. And you could be taking on a lot of the negative emotions in just one day, 1 hour. And I don't know if this relates to any other child life specialist, but me personally, like I have a really hard time making myself sit down and actually take a break.
Yeah.
I'm always working, even if I'm eating my lunch. So sometimes I struggle to kind of decompress at work. And I have to remind myself, I'm not going to be a good child life specialist to anyone if I'm not being a good human to myself. And I need to
Yeah.
just sit and feel my emotions for a second, drink my coffee,
Yeah.
squeeze a stress ball,
Yeah.
and then I can go back up to the unit.
Yeah, yeah, it's so important. Yeah, I
Mm.
remember my therapist, she was like, "So like what do you do to decompress when that happens?" I'm like, "I usually like listen to a podcast on the way home." And she was like, "Oh, so that's not processing, like that's avoiding." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Like I was thought I was doing the work.
Hmm.
Um I think that goes for any parent, child life specialist who's listening. Like when things are hard, you're much better off feeling them, thinking about them, processing them, than you
Hmm.
are stuffing them down. Like, we know that doesn't end well.
No, that does not end well. I mean, I can speak in my personal life and in my child life that
Yeah.
if you don't actually just face your feelings head on and take a minute to think about them and throw them away, then
Yeah.
you're going to come out in a really ugly way. Whether you
Yeah.
like it or not, they're going to come out.
Exactly. Riley, tell us about I love people who are gap fillers and who
Mm.
are ambitious and who see opportunities or see things and want to see them changed. Based on your experience and perspective, the role that you are now, I know you're relatively new in the field and you work your clinical works, but what's your dream? What's your vision for Riley, and what you can
Hmm.
accomplish?
That's a good question. Kind of like you said earlier, I have managed to check off probably one of my biggest child life goals working on the cardiac units, but I think next steps for me are just something that I would like to pursue down the road is just furthering my education. Um, I've always been interested in research, so I'd really love to get into research in the field. I don't want to just be stagnant. I feel that's almost a waste of my time. I want to continue growing and bettering myself and bettering the things that I care about, which would be child life. Um, but I wish I had a more finite answer for you. I'm so up in the air all the time of like when I want to start my next steps or even what my next steps are.
You
Um,
know what? I'm kind of mad at myself for asking you that question,
no, no.
because here's the truth. Like, what you have accomplished is insane and
Oh.
amazing and so admirable. And here I am like, what's next? But, I do like think that the key to longevity in our field
Hmm.
is getting creative.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think research is a great step. And so I think that's a perfect answer. And I also think the answer of like, girl, I just got here, like I want to do this and feel this and live this, is a perfectly fine answer too.
Yeah, I think for now I see myself kind of staying where I'm at for a good bit because I am
Mhm.
happy and I'm not burnt out yet. Um,
And
I
you
have,
may not get burnt out.
you
I think
know,
sometimes we say it's inevitable, but it's really not. When you get good at practicing and balancing,
Mhm.
and then show that to the people, who come next, whether it's students or families or whatever it is, and you keep just pouring into you too.
Yeah,
Burnout isn't imminent.
I think, I mean, one thing is I never want to leave a place the same that I found it. So a goal of mine for myself, and I mean, I haven't even spoken these things to my boss yet. I just thought of it on the way to work this morning.
Yeah.
Honestly, is for the cardiac population, it's really important to get up after surgery and walk and just ambulate around the unit. So this is actually something that one of my coworkers was able to do at the last hospital that I worked at, but she created a virtual diversion wall. And this was like an over a year process that it took to do. But this was like an interactive wall that patients in the PICU, which was the unit that she worked on, could walk up to, and they could make a C character and play games with that C character. And it was just overall like a really awesome idea. And I believe she had gotten that from another hospital that had done it. And I was thinking this morning on the way to work, I was like, oh my God, what if the PICU, or not the PICU, the cardiac ICU had one of those interactive diversion walls to help encourage patients to get up after surgery to walk around? I think that would be awesome. And I was like, I don't know who I would even have to talk to start this ball rolling.
Yeah.
Um, but that's something that I kind of want to do.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay. So if I know what it is, it's called
Mhm.
Spellbound AR.
Okay.
And they have these decal stickers on the wall, and you take your phone to it. Is that
Okay.
what this is? And it's like, so it makes kids stand up, get to the wall, you take a picture of it, and then like it comes alive.
Oh
Was
my gosh,
that similar?
that sounds really cool. But what she had was it essentially kind of looked like 6 TV screens on the
Hmm.
wall, and
Wow.
it was like a big, like interactive, virtual, kind of like a huge iPad on the wall.
Wow. Oh, so you could go
Um,
touch it
oh
and
yeah,
yeah.
oh yeah.
Wow.
And she had worked on this for over a year. She was my first preceptor during my internship, and so she told me about it, and I was like, that is the coolest thing that I've ever heard. And I think you're the coolest person ever, because
Yes.
who like takes the time to do that? And she
Yeah.
had worked with these virtual reality guys to come up with every single nitty gritty detail possible for this thing. So I just thought that'd be something cool that cardiac patients could benefit from to help encourage kids.
Absolutely.
Because that's
I
like
love
one
that.
thing that I'm always struggling with is they'll ask me, they're like, Rylee, can you go get something to help this patient walk? And whatever I get, just like, I feel like doesn't always do the trick. Like they just are
Yeah.
genuinely scared. They don't want to walk. They have all these cords on them, and I get it. But how
Yeah.
cool would it be to go walk and make your own like virtual
I
reality friend on a huge iPad on the wall?
I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay, just like some advice. So, if you go to grantwatch.com,
Okay.
hashtag not sponsored, but they're the best that I have found for grants. And so you can search like healthcare, children, pediatrics, and then you could potentially get a grant to fund a project like that. And then
Oh.
that also sounds like a really interesting research project too, to kind of combine
Mhm.
your two interests, and then seeing like, does this wall get kids out of bed faster? And starting with like 5 patients. I think that would be so cool.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, of course. I love that. Well, there's no doubt you're going to leave any room you walk into better than you found it, including this podcast. So I'm so grateful that you were here today. I don't know if you like to share on social media, but if you want people to follow you, is there someplace where people can do that?
I don't have a personal child life Instagram, so there isn't really any place that they could follow me at. Um, if you are a mom or a father and you have questions, and if you have a child who has a cardiac condition and you just kind of want to pick my brain a little bit, you're more than welcome to message me. It's at Rylee Neal on Instagram, and I'm happy to serve as a virtual kind of support or just a friend for you guys. Um, if you have any questions.
That's so generous. Oh my goodness, so generous. Well, thank you so much, Rylee, and thanks for what you do and what you've accomplished. And I'm just so grateful that I get to meet you. Are you coming to Texas by chance for the Child Life Conference?
No, I wish I was. I think since I am newer in the field, I don't need those PDUs as quickly as some other people might need them.
Yeah.
But I would love to go to conference at some point in my career. So
I love that. I love that. I know I'll see you presenting there at some point. So
oh gosh, if I'm presenting there, then I don't know. I must have mustered up a lot of motivation because that takes a lot. But
it does. Well, thank you, Rylee. I loved having you.
All right. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for listening to Child Life on Call. If you head to our website, childlifeoncall.com, you're going to find all sorts of stuff there for parents, professionals, healthcare providers, child life specialists, no matter who you are. Actually, when you just go to our homepage, it'll help you direct to exactly where you need to go. On that, you'll find opportunities and PDUs for child life specialists. Parents, we've got a starter kit for you. And clinicians, we even have a clinician course, which teaches you how to be a confident and capable caregiver in pediatrics. We're so grateful that you're here. Please DM us on Instagram. And like I mentioned, when you rate and review this podcast, it helps other families be able to find us. So let's keep doing that. And I will see you again here next week.